Hey Sierra and hey team. Yeah, so I'm down in Southland, New Zealand, right down the bottom of the country, and I'm a third generation sheep farmer on a farm called the Montana Flat. And yeah, we've got 1,000 acres or 400 hectares, and we run about 4,000 sheep on that. So yeah, each year producing over 6,000 lambs. And yeah, that's plenty enough to keep us busy within the sheep farming enterprise. But yeah, for the last 3 4 years after I got back from a bit of an overseas experience, I've just been dabbling in a whole range of uh, tangential, yeah, just experiments sort of with agritourism and permaculture. And yeah, so we're just trying to explore diversity on the property to the full extent of the word. And yeah, what the focus is at any one time changes a lot. Currently, I've been working on an event called Future Whenua Summit, which starts in 2 days' time. It's the inaugural one, and yeah, that's sort of like a 3-day educational event. And people sort of across the rail sector in New Zealand are coming to speak about uh, yeah, their place in the sector and their view on the future of our whenua, which is Māori for land. And yeah, as we're seeing on the website in the background, there's a bunch of the different initiatives. The Montana Flat website is actually set up as a cadetship, a rural training program. It hasn't gone too far the cadetship yet, but it was a way of getting all the stuff we're up to in one place to begin with. On there right now is Burning Horse and yeah, well, polycultured paddocks are another one. We should have a bunch of photos coming up later, and I'd like to explain what I've been doing there. Just a trial with large scale using just normal seed drill in the way that we're planting multi-species crops, winter crops for the sheep, and yeah, just replacing some of those species, Swedes, kale, faba beans, and replacing them with mesclun and carrots and nasturtiums and seeing what's been coming up. So yeah, polyculture paddocks being our sort of vegetable or horticultural, permacultural trial, and then yeah, just a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, on their entertainment, we've got two frisbee golf courses on the farm, one by the river, one on the plantation. So yeah, experimenting a lot with the production, a lot with bringing people in, and then yeah, we like to have a good time. So yeah,
That's awesome. I see Wayne popped on. Hey, Wayne.
Hey, how you doing, Wayne?
Oh, we're not hearing you. I think you might be muted.
I was muted. I unmuted. I apologize for being late. I've been telling everybody this is going to be my most favorite webinar for months because I love my conversation with Zeb and also our back and forth email with Joel Salatin a little bit. And then just as I came on, he's talking about Frisbee golf. I love Frisbee golf. So it's
Really?
cool. I have a course at my place also.
Oh, brilliant. As if I didn't need another reason to come and visit you when I make it back to the States, Wayne.
Yep, so I also have, this is the last little thing about me, and you might think about it because you've got the space for it. I have a pasture golf course. So it's really the way that regular golf started. So I did bring some artificial grass in to have as tee boxes, but you wouldn't need that. You could literally use these little pads you can get just to hit golf balls off of. And then I have PVC pipe with some rebar in the ground, and it's there. Those are the flag sticks, and so you hit the ball within 10 yards of the flag stick, sort of in a circle that's around it. And I don't mark them. It's sort of, you just guess. And that's in the hole. So you don't putt. But it's actually a full length golf course. I have 7,000 yards that you could play as a distance, which is the same distance the pros play. And the equivalent of a hole in one on our course, and it's only happened once, is you play with the same ball the whole round. You haven't lost it. So if you lose your ball, you replace it, and you know. But so that's the cool thing. So you could. There used to be a website called PastureGolf.com. It doesn't exist anymore. I went to it, and it's redirected to some other site. But anyway, something for you to think about is if you need more in your life is to have a pasture golf course.
Pasture golf, load me up. I'm into it. Nice.
Yeah. So cool. Well, Sierra, I'm gonna let you keep. Sierra's my amazing environmental assistant and associate, and I knew I might be a little late, so I asked her to make sure to be able to be on here. Oh man, does that food look great there in the middle? And I wanted her to get to know you anyway, but over time, by the way, did you and Joel communicate any more separately from the emails that I was copied on? And if not, I can.
No, nothing further than that. Yeah, I was just sort of introducing.
I'll push him a little bit more, and we'll make sure that we get additional communication, because he was kind of excited about what you're doing. So, and he's a really good guy, and he's not that hard to get to know. So Sierra, you continue on your questioning, and let me get my my feet on the ground in terms of my thoughts here, and then I'll jump in and ask Zeb some questions also.
Yeah, sounds good. So the first thing that really comes to mind is, why sheep? Is this something that you've been involved in since you were a child, or is it just something that you jumped into and really got interested? I mean, how did it all start?
Yeah, so the sheep farming, my grandfather bought this property maybe 50, 60 years ago, and it's been a sheep farm ever since then. So yeah, that's not a decision of mine. It's sort of like just the way of it down here in New Zealand. It used to be all sheep farms in our area, and then 10, 20 years ago they sort of there were a lot of dairy conversions, and in the last 5 or so years, the only conversions going on is converting to grain farming. Seems we've got a really good climate for arable farming here, actually. So down our road, there's probably just two or three farms holding on to the family sheep farm, and yeah, we just love it. I wouldn't want to swap to a dairy or a grain farming model. I enjoy the sheep farming. There's a lot of diversity in our day, and we know how to do it, and we're pretty highly productive here. So yeah, that's why.
So I'll follow up with.
Oh, go ahead, Wayne.
Just to follow up to that, and I knew the history there, but I don't know the question I'm going to ask. How have you changed in terms of your operations from what your grandfather or your father did? What are the primary changes, and if any, that you've done?
So when Pop bought this place, there were about 6 trees on the entire property, and yeah, now there's tree lanes down there, thousands of trees. So that was sort of him and Dad, and they also replaced the whole fences. Everything's got a central lane system, and so from purchase to sort of Dad's era was just really about efficiency and replacing all the grasses, getting things cranking. And my last 3 or 4 years since being here is just, yeah, it's about exploring this diversity in our system, different enterprises. That's why I was so keen to talk to Joel, because he's such a patron of the, stacking enterprises and that line of thinking, and I'm really believing that as the way that we should sort of, maybe not everyone, but definitely farms like ours, well and surely we could. So for me, it's about bringing in other models, having the events, having some experiment with a bit more self-sufficiency. And yeah, in our actual sheep farming enterprise, we've been on the regenerative agriculture train for the last couple of years, and yeah, always we've done monoculture Swedes has been our winter crops. The grass doesn't grow much here in winter, so we have to supplementary feed them with baleage, and yeah, we'll do about 30 or 40 hectares of winter crop each year as well. So that's always been just a monoculture of Swedes or sometimes kale. And the last year, this year, we're 100% of winter crops is direct drilled multi-species crops. So that's one of the big changes.
And you know, again, I know that Joel's going to have a great time over time talking with you about how he has stacked enterprises. I don't know if we had a chance to talk about it, but I don't know if you'd find a more firm believer, strong believer that the only way we can make sort of the non-industrial farm a big part of our food future is, and to get regenerative, restorative, all those sort of green words, farming back to be more in the norm, is to convince those farmers that are involved that they have to look at a variety of different ways that they make income on their property. And I call my place, I don't remember whether I told you this when we talked, Zeb, but I call my place an ecological business park, because that seems to relate more to the common person around that's not a farmer, because they understand a business park. That's, oh yeah, there's lots of different businesses there. Those businesses find a way to work together, and you know, you might have a hub business. Let's say it's a business that makes golf carts or makes four-wheel buggies. Well, then you're going to need businesses that make a lot of the parts that would be there for those. So they all, the smaller businesses come in to support the primary one. So in my case, the primary business has been for 10 plus years now, alpacas. That's changing, and our primary business is becoming aquaculture. And aquaculture in the past was a secondary business. It's becoming primary. But I think I told you, I never have less than 10 different income deriving businesses at my location. And I have a much, much smaller piece of land than you do. And I can have as many as 30 at any given point. And I won't consider them unless they're compatible with each other. That leads me to a question, which is, you were struggling getting that right person. I know you failed on the first one to come in and be an intern with you. Have you tried a second person yet?
No, I haven't tried a second person yet. Had a young Scottish fellow, James Cook. He's been here all summer. So in terms of just like having the help, yeah, have had that. But in terms of getting someone to long term join the team, still in that search. And yeah, I love your idea about the ecological business park. I hope you don't mind if I use that in the future.
I don't mind at all. Yeah.
And it's actually, in terms of getting that person to join, so yeah, through what we're looking at down the bottom is the cadetship, and that would always be a transient role. Someone's just coming to upskill themselves and learn, you know, and move on and make their impact elsewhere. But yeah, we are looking for someone, and I've sort of narrowed it down to who the first role is going to be an ecosystems manager. So do we get a full-time permaculturist, or do we need to get someone to worry about the agroforestry initiatives or something? I know that's where we need the help the most, but yeah, rounding that out, and it's a ecosystems manager that I think will be the role there.
And I'll tell you what, I've always wished that I would do better than I have done, and it's really what I want to make a really big effort to do moving forward, is to make sure, and I'm an older guy than you, Zeb, but to make sure that I have a leader that can take over for me at any time, and that would have a diversity of skills, the same sort of passion for the venture, the ecological business park, wouldn't have to necessarily have the primary skills that I have, which in the case of our farm, it's aquaculture. I mean, I've been the aquaculture guy. And interestingly, I haven't even tried to find a second there because I still enjoy doing it so much. Just like you probably maybe don't even think about finding a second for yourself with your sheep enterprises, because again, your grandfather did it. You've done, your dad did it.
Baron's on the screen right now. He's not actually the second. He's the one. I work underneath Baron's on the sheep side of things.
So you already have that. That's already in place. Well, I don't, that, yeah. and I need to have that. And honestly, I believe Joel would tell you that he does have it too with Daniel, his son. That Joel could just go on the speaking circuit if he wanted to, or writing books, or being the amazing teacher and person that he is. But that Daniel, his son, is that person that's the second. I don't have that yet. And so I really need that. And then secondly, we're changing. And if you were now to look at a website that we're still under development with, but for our ranch, which is called Mountain Sky Ranch, we've actually changed the name of it to Mountain Sky Community, that we want the public to understand, because we're going to add on top of the business park side a living center for a very small and select group of people. In our case, we could have 2 other families or individuals or couples live with us. But the goal is not that they would live there full time, but rather it would be a place that they could come anytime when times are good and play, or even learn, interact with all those 10 to 30 other businesses that are there. And they would have lifetime rights for that. So they wouldn't own the land. I'd continue to own the land, but they would have use rights for that longer period of time. And then again, I'm not reluctant to say this, but I never like saying it. If times ever weren't so good, if we had a natural disaster, if we had an apocalypse, we had something that made times not so great, maybe even as bad as the SHTF type of circumstance, then that would be their refuge. And those 10 or so, that's in our case, that's the kind of the magic number, just because of the amount of land and it's that we have, then that could be the place those people would come. I'm going to look locally for those people right in the Denver area, so not more than an hour away, so they can be there. And I've had 4 or 5 people approach me to talk about it, so I'm not really worried. Just I'm putting some seeds in your head a little bit, because I think that that's something that you could look at even long term, and maybe you already are, but again, just really cool. So Sierra, I'm going to turn it back over to you. So do you have a comment or thought on that first, and then Sierra, you go into some questions for Zeb some more.
I'll send you a proposal that I typed up about this time last year, and it's very in line with that. Yeah, it's sort of this timeshare model where people can come, and then it's a plan B as well. And for me, I wasn't taking a local family, but perhaps actually looking for a wealthy individual from San Francisco or London or something. Right. And the south of New Zealand is a place to be. There's a lot of these sort of post-apocalyptic narrative that escape and get to New Zealand, and I'll tell you, being in New Zealand, down in Southland is the spot, because we've got climatic safety. We're very underpopulated here, and we're high producers. So yeah, I've thought that line deeply. So pretty awesome to hear you say that and suggest it.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have so many things that we could be working on in common, and we started that process, and I was really excited to use this to be a sort of a kickoff to take it further. By the way, audience, I'm sure Sierra told you this, but please ask questions and make comments anytime you have them. Turn it back to you, Sierra, because I want you to be able to ask Zeb some questions.
Yeah, something that I thought of was, out of all the people that you make connections with doing this and all the people that come to you to kind of get guidance and learn about what you're doing, how many of those are people who are in a similar situation like you that have been doing sheep and agriculture for generations versus the amount of people that are just beginners and starting out and wanting to get into it?
Yeah, I probably don't have that much of a outreach with people in my situation. It's I live in the middle of nowhere in Southland. Sometimes you can home it up and just focus on what I'm doing. But the summit I was talking about this weekend, that will be a chance definitely to reach that out, and it'll be interesting amongst the crowd to see who. Yeah, there we go on the screen. Yeah, to see who from that audience would fit in those different camps.
Is that a live event or is this a virtual event?
Live event, yeah. So we had I don't know, in New Zealand we haven't really had the COVID issues quite the same. We've got 0 cases currently, so we've got border restrictions, but in terms of I went to an event with 25,000 people a couple of weeks ago. It was we've got it pretty cruisy here. It's going to be a small live event.
Aspects of all that.
Yeah. So live events are all go with us still, but it is just going to be a small crowd. Maybe 70 people or something. I'm sort of expecting, and it's all going to be recorded as well, so we can start a bit of a brand. The Future Whenua Summit will be the annual event that will be held, sort of on the farm down at the Burning Horse grounds, and then Future Whenua as a brand will sort of more be about this. What Wayne, what you're doing with just spreading information about ecological and economic practice, a bit of a way of rooting that in New Zealand culture, because as Joel stated in our back and forths, we are devoid of some of this. We're highly productive and we've got really good systems, but it's in dairy, sheep, and horticulture. I think we could do a lot more to focus on some of these emergent concepts or practices. So that's what Future Whenua is all about, is sort of bringing the work that you're doing with the community and what so many people are doing, and giving it a voice in New Zealand.
What are you most excited about with the event coming up?
Damien O'Connor's coming to speak, and he's the Minister of Agriculture here in New Zealand. So it was a real honour that he said yes to come down to the farm. And I'm gonna take a workshop on the Saturday called Polyculture Paddock, and it's something I've been working on for 2 years. This a growing methodology to really make just becoming self-sufficient a lot easier. So it's something I've been working on mostly just on myself and on the farm, sorry. And this is a way of I guess bringing it to the world. So I'm excited for that. And then during the solution sessions which are on there, there's just we've got some of the the Damien O'Connors and Andrew Morrisons, who's the CEO of Beef and Lamb in New Zealand, talking about big level industry. But during these solution sessions, we've got sort of just grassroots innovators, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what guys like Michael Sly can say about waste to wilderness, or those are things I'm pretty excited about.
How long did you spend on the planning and marketing of this event?
How long? We've put the whole thing together in about the last 4 months. We started working on it big time in December, and the marketing. We've had quite a lot to do, because we're also trying to source funding, so it's not all up to ticket sales to allow it to happen, and then just creating something from scratch. If no one's heard of Future Whenua, you've got to sort of first introduce it, then sell them on it, and then get them to to commit to coming and attend. So each of those takes time, but yeah, from start till happening next weekend, it's all been about 4 months.
And then because we've had so many webinars recently, Sierra's been really great in helping set these up. But with people that are in what I'll call broadly the reduce our use of plastic realm. And one of the things we've talked about, and the Canadians have done a so much better job than we have here in the States. And I'm curious about what's going on in New Zealand. And as you meet with the Minister of Agriculture, who's going to be there for your event, you might be able to even chat with him about this. But that is carbon related either fines if you're doing things badly, or and I won't use the word credits. It is something that cruelly is a real financial circumstance if you're doing things and showing. So if you take a piece of ground that was an overgrazed sheep circumstance, the soil carbons were almost non-existent. It was just dirt, and there was a high level of pesticide, herbicide, all kinds of bad things of land use, and you convert it to something that's not that is ecologically balanced, and now your soil carbon levels have gone up to 3 or 4 or 5% even, or higher. Is there anything like a carbon financial incentive in New Zealand?
We've got the carbon credit scheme with forestry and stuff, but they've left soil carbon out of the equation at this point. For one, I think I don't know if the measurements if they can trust that, or if the science is quite up with it yet. And for two, I think it's a bit of a fear because we have comparably quite high soil carbon contents in New Zealand already. But yeah, the genuine, in terms of my view on that, I'll stay out of anything too political or systematic. I'm quite happy just working on farming practice. We also have a bunch coming in New Zealand. There's just been a big freshwater policy come out, and that's got quite, that's been a focus probably more than the soil carbon, is this freshwater thing, and it's a very contentious subject because, of course, it's coming from the right place. It's a really good thing if we can all unify and start working together to, make our rivers swimmable and drinkable again. But it just comes with, it's been a bit of a blanket approach. All farmers, no matter where, have to have crops after winter crops. They have to be re-sown by, I think it was the 1st of September or something. And down here in Southland, you can barely get a tractor in at that time. So yeah, I guess I'm just saying, coming from the top down, like a government regulation, there's already a bunch coming at us farmers to worry about. So yeah, so people are already a bit wary of government-led initiative sense of that. But yeah, I believe in it. What you're saying, if you can work on a degraded soil and bring it back to life, you should be rewarded for that.
Right, you should. How did you do you have long-term relationships with the Minister of Agriculture that's coming in, or was that sort of a stroke of luck that you were able to get him to come?
Yeah, stroke of luck.
Okay.
I've said for some time that I allow myself to be guided by synchronicity, and that was a classic example. I basically just decided to go for it with Future Whenua Summit, and I met Damien in Wanaka, and we had a bit of a yarn, and I asked him if I sent him an email, would he read it, and he said yes. So yeah, I told him about what we're up to on the farm and what the vision was for the summit, and he agreed to it. So it's just been back and forth and by email other than that one meeting.
Cool. So you started to talk about it, and then you be thinking of the next set of questions, Sierra. But was your polyculture paddock. And I think if it's Arib that's doing the screen, or Mark, if you guys could come to where Zeb's got that, because it's very cool. So and it's very simple, by the way, everybody. There we go. Describe to everybody just how they could do that in their own quarter-acre space. Shoot, smaller than that, right, Zeb? I mean, I'm going to be doing it at my place. I'm going to follow your directions specifically. I've got one little area that I want to do it in, and we're just barely getting out of winter. We've had a very tough winter. Had 3 feet of snow about a week and a half ago, and it's pretty much melted now. But let's talk about polyculture paddocks just a little bit.
All right. So yeah, there we go on the screen. That's sort of what it looks like at harvest time. And yeah, it was. So I've been looking into permaculture and trying to just like use those in my backyard gardening. And then as we were progressing our system to a more regenerative agriculture model, and we're planting multi-species crops, and we can do that all with our drill. And I was just seeing how infrequently I can actually harvest the amount of work that I put into my backyard garden, and how much I actually take out of it. And then just seeing we can plant a 5-hectare block of these multi-species with the sheep species, Swedes and faba bean and Phacelia. So I just thought, oh, if I just order a whole bunch of vegetable species and seeds for human consumption, whether it's flowers or vegetables or herbs, and mix them all together and sow them just with our big agricultural equipment, the seed drill, and what would happen. So I did it actually in the name of creating a garden for Burning Horse, so we could have a paddock to play during that event. And it was a huge success. I probably had a salad of 12 different types of lettuce or mesclun greens, and there were carrots and beets, and they were all growing together. So it was it's really enjoyable going out to harvest in that, because you're searching through what one's looking lush, what's there. You can sort of pry into the ground. And yeah, it was just such a joy being out in there harvesting. And then when the lockdown hit, we had 4 of us guys living at my house, and we went to the supermarket once the entire time. It was we had lockdowns for 6 weeks here, being in a strict lockdown. So yeah, one supermarket, we were just out there harvesting, and it just kept on producing it. And in the beginning, we'd have the mesclun greens came out first, and then they would go to seed, and then up would come the bok choys or whatever was next, the spinach, and then that would go to seed, and then through came the kale, and then all the root crops were ready, and in the meantime there's flowers and all sorts springing up. So it was one single harvest, one single sowing date, in November, which was the start of spring for us, and we had the successional harvest. So instead of I did, as well as the polyculture mixes, I did a couple that one was all basil, one was all spinach, and the basil never grew. So that strip only grew fat hen. It went to seed and created a big weed pressure. The spinach, I had a load of spinach. Yeah, for about 10 days, I had more spinach than I knew what to. But I didn't actually need that for what I needed from a practical standpoint. Like, I wasn't trying to sell canned spinach or something. I really just wanted something I could harvest continually. So though I had a lot of it and it would have been easy to harvest that all, it wasn't what I needed. What I needed was what was appearing in the polyculture. So I sort of planted it for this ecological principles of diversity and quorum sensing. And I'm sure you've talked about that on your webinars before. But what I found the real benefits were these practical benefits, this successional harvest, when I only had to do a single sowing date. So yeah, that's sort of what polyculture paddock was all about. And the method, if you clicked onto that on the website, it's really simple. It's just design, look at the land that you've got, look at the area you've got, seed selection, I think, is the next one. And yeah, design and plan. Yeah, seed selection's the next one. What do you want to be eating? What will grow in your climate? And yeah, you could get onto this website and look through it. It really is simple. Anyone could do this. Implementation, for us, it's easy. We've got a seed drill, we've got a plow, we've got a tractor. But if you've got land and that was able to be sown in grass whenever it was, or however that happened, then you can get a contractor to come and do this, I'm very sure. And yeah, observation, just after you've got it in, checking it out. What's growing? Is there weeds coming quick? If it's getting overrun with whatever your local weed is. For us, it's fat hen. I spent about 2 hours and I weeded the entire thing from fat hen, and I think that made it, compared to my first year to this year, it's really made that a bit cleaner in there. Harvest that simple. I say in there, I'll just read it out. For most of human history, we have foraged and gathered food from nature. Learning to decipher edible from undesirable plants was a fundamental in the development of our brains, eyes, and basic motor functional abilities. This action is ingrained in our DNA, but omitted entirely from our modern lifestyle. It could then be stated that harvesting in a polyculture paddock may satisfy a deep-rooted primal desire. So be sure to enjoy this practice and be grateful for the abundant food.
By the way, Zeb, you've upgraded this website fairly recently since I was at it. By the way, Sierra, I wanted you to see this specifically going to use, because you asked me about what you could do. This is what you should be doing, because it'll satisfy all your scientist needs and emotions, and you'll find out what it is you can grow in the area that you're wanting to use. And so, Zeb, this is very cool how you've kind of upgraded this since I last looked at it. And let's back to the harvest, maybe scroll back upwards a little bit, Arib or Mark. And what Zeb just talked about. And if you guys in the audience, and those are going to be people live and watching this as a replay, you should go back and listen to one of Kate Armstrong's webinars, of which we've had 3 or 4. She's an urban forager, Zeb, and she does the amazing way of teaching about how you can determine something that you just pick out of the ground to eat, whether it's dangerous or not, whether it's harmful. And it starts with just a smell, and if it has any kind of a smell that's off, get rid of it, because your nose is going to know. If then it's not just the smell's all right, but you just sort of put it up to your lips, just sort of let your lips, let a little moisture get on it, let your tongue go a little. Again, anything that's off, it's probably not something good. Then if it passes that, you chew it just a little bit, get some saliva on it, let your taste buds come into play now. And again, immediately, if you get the bad kind of a taste, get rid of it. If not, you're still taking it to the last step. And by the way, this never involves swallowing at all. Literally, the next step is let it chew it up really now. And again, if you get any kind of a weird taste, stop. Now, in my case, I now use it commonly, and I actually then swallow, and then I'll try to identify what it is that it was there that I've eaten. But when you do this seed processing, the way that Zeb talks about here, and then you can't predict until you've had it in for a couple of years, probably what it is that's going to do really well. And there will be some weeds that come in that you probably shouldn't eat, but then there's going to be the vast majority of what you have there that you can. And it is just amazing. And it's very much like Mark Shepard talks about as being stunned, strikingly terrific, utter neglect, because once you've planted it, and if you're in a place like you are, Sierra, where you're in the grain belt of the U.S., you've got perfect climate conditions. You don't need to probably irrigate or water it any during your summer, during your growth time, spring and into the summer. it's going to have everything fine for you. You know, I live in a desert. I live with 11, 12 inches of rainfall, so I've got a water. But beyond that, I'm going to let this, and I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to follow Zeb's process here this spring. I'm going to do it on about 1/4 of an acre. But again, it doesn't have to be done with a drill and a tractor. You can get a rototiller, as we call it, just out there. Get that soil just torn up a little one time. Once you do it once, you're not going to go vertical anymore. That's one of the principles of really good soil science. Anyway, I just love the idea, Zeb. And how much? Tell us what species has done really well in your polyculture paddock that you didn't expect? What surprised you?
Yeah, okay. Well, the kale's a standout performer. We just have this lush. I've got about 4 or 5 different varieties of kale in there, and they all go well. But probably some of the things like coriander. I've heard it's actually tough to grow, and it just grows. You know, I put too much coriander in first year, and those couple of strips, they were just white, and then all set seed. So the second year, my first one I just have left. I call it the museum, and I'm just leading and seeing what happens over time with that. And the coriander came back with a force because it all set seed so much. But yeah, that was an interesting one.
How about rooted
Yeah,
stuff? What were some of the rooted plants that ended up doing well?
the carrots did pretty well, and the beets. I was wondering about this competition, not giving them space under the ground, but no, actually, I'd dig a spadeful up, and there would be a parsnip, a carrot, a beet, all growing right beside each other.
Sierra, isn't that cool? That's what you should do. So.
And yeah, with the rooted vegetables, because I did a direct drilled as well as a cultivated area, and it definitely worked better with the cultivated with the root crops, of course. Yeah.
I have one more question I want to make sure I get in, and then Sierra, I'm going to turn it over to you to let you ask the last 15 minutes or more, or a little more here. And audience, you guys please get in some questions if you have them too. I've been looking back and forth just to see if we've had any, and we do actually have some here. But my last one is, I don't remember whether we talked about this. The reason I'm here in Texas right now is one of my hobbies is dog training, but dogs have always been a big part of my food life also, because for most of my adult life, harvested wild game has been a big part of our diet. So it's either been deer or elk, wild boar a couple times. I harvest ducks and geese and pheasants and others, and for very regular. I would bet that 60% of what my wife and I eat in our meat diet is something we've harvested. Well, we use dogs to help us with that. Now, I've taken it to a different status, and I like to compete with them. But I didn't ask you before, what do you have for either guard dogs and or herding dogs with your sheep operation?
We're going through this. There we go. Timely. So that's Brutus is the Huntaway standing up. Standard in New Zealand, most shepherds will have a Huntaway and an eye dog. As anyone, a shepherd on a big station will have 3 of each, you know. So Jedi with the white, he's an eye dog. It's he'll only shift sheep with his movement. He'll run out. He's a bit smarter perhaps than Brutus, who's a bit of a meat missile. But so Brutus will shift with his voice, with his noise by barking, and Jed will just use movement. And yeah, the New Zealand Huntaway, the Huntaway, Brutus has a bit of beauty in him as well. But yeah, it's specifically bred for New Zealand farming systems, really. Yeah, they're big.
And
big
how much
billowing
training do they? How much training versus what is instinctual?
They're pretty instinctual. Yeah, good dogs. Good dogs. There's a difference, but in their natural ability. I didn't do a lot of like direct training, but you're training them every day when you're shifting sheep, or
Yeah.
you know, if they're not listening, you're continually training them.
Cool. Have you ever calculated how many miles a year you've actually yourself, or now you're the second you said that you spend moving the animals?
No, I've never calculated that. No.
I bet it's a lot more than you would even think about. So Sierra, before you go,
These photos just on the screen here, the one
oh
before
yeah,
and this one. So that's in the winter crop. So this is for the sheep, sunflowers, and you can sort of see that vetch climbing up it,
yes,
and it's
yeah,
like showing that like it's climbing up. I thought that was a really beautiful photo. And the
it
one
is.
previous to it shows a bit of a wider view. So there's chicory, plantain, there's Swedes and turnips in this mix as well, and you can see the sunflowers up. So that's what the sheep will be eating in winter.
Wow.
And yeah, again, we used to always just do one plant.
Craig asked, can you provide a sneak preview of polyculture paddock? He did. I think that question was quite a little bit ago, and I think you did that. Where is the newsletter or something to keep in touch with you? We might as well do that right now. What's the best way that people would be able to communicate with you, Zeb, if they had questions and so on?
Yeah, that's probably something I've got to work on. I don't know because we're all over the shop. The Montana Flat being the farm and being the
Yeah.
ecological business hub now, business park might be something that we build into this website. Whereas Future Whenua it would be another, but yeah, probably on this Montana Flat site there is a contact on there, and yeah, I'll try and keep that so it's not just about the cadetship, but more about what we're doing in general.
What's going on with that tree back there, by the way? Go back a couple slides.
Yeah. So we've got this pine plantation. You know, pine's not great wood. So they say it'll rot in 2 years if you left it out untreated. And in Scandinavia, they've got these like 700-year-old wooden churches and cathedrals, and that's just pine, you know, untreated as well. So what they were doing is in spring, when the pine is full of sap, they would ring bark it, which is down the bottom, and then we just all those other patches is just more ring barking. So it brings the sap out, and so we did that in spring, and in winter we'll harvest that, and just seeing if because the sap will come out of it drawn to the outsides, we're hoping that it will increase the longevity of the pine.
That is very cool. And is it true that if you did that on a tree you weren't going to harvest, completely removing that bark with that circular rim would actually probably doom the tree? Is that right? It would be. They say that a tree really can't live for an extended period after it's had its entirety taken off, and that's why you're doing it the year before you harvest it, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So that tree is dying now for sure. You can see one in the background as well. We did about 6 of them, and yeah, we've got them numbered. Some of them we did in summer as well, just you know, seeing if that springtime or the sap's in it, what effect that has compared to doing it at a different time of year, and yeah, just going to try and make a few observations around that. But it's about that resourcefulness. We've got some things in abundance, and pine is one of them. And if we can all of a sudden, there's our workshop.
By the way, go back one slide back, Arif or Mark, that little building. So one of the things I calculated the other day, we've given away close to 10,000 of these. I don't remember, but 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, somebody that worked for me came up with the idea of building what we call pallet buildings. And because we have so many pallets around our area where people put things on them to move them around and in industrial settings. And they give them away. It's very easy to get them for free. And they're typically 4 foot by 4 foot, although they make bigger ones. And they're intended to where you can get the forks on a piece of heavy equipment under them and lift things up. So we designed a shed, a little building that is 8 feet by 8 feet, or even 10 if we have larger pallets, by 8 feet in the front and then 6 feet in the back, that we can build for in 4 hours for less than $100 in cost. Most of that cost is in the roof, and whether we use metal planking on the roof or whether we use just a waterproof type of OSB board. But then the other cost is just in small little pieces, and then mainly also in something to keep it anchored, which could be T-posts we use, but it could be concrete and so on. If that's at all of interest, you might really enjoy what you could do with pallets and the variety of things you could build. So I'll send you a set of those plans. So
yeah, keen. That there's the confessional, and you can see that black. That's another way of just preserving the pine. So it's called shishugi ban. It's a Japanese wood burning technique, and yeah, we've just got a LPG bottle with a flame weeder, so like a flame comes off, and we'll burn that, scrub off the chalk, and once again we could leave that outside for a long time. The charring of it, sort of that what happens with biochar, when it turns, it really deepens up the amount of binding sites. So that's what's happening. Yeah, shishugi ban.
Shishugi, cool.
And
Sierra.
actually, oh yeah, don't worry.
Oh, go ahead. No, keep going. This is cool. Is that a shelter of some kind?
That's the sweat lodge. Yeah,
okay.
Built it for the festival.
All right.
But that there, so could we go back one? There's a wee food forest down on the festival site planted this year. Yeah, so this is a solar dehydrator, and the slide before where there is a big black panel, that's the collector. So it's about 80% complete, but inside I've got a dehydrator, a small electronic one that I've been, because we have a lot of kale, it's all ready at once, and then it does go to seed. It doesn't just sit there forever. But so since we're boom and bust, and because I live out in Riversdale and I don't have a nearby market, and I'm not actually too interested in marketing fresh produce, the timeline's too short, too much. I'd have to be going to supermarkets or whatever. Like there are those avenues, but sort of wasn't for us. But we thought if we could dehydrate and make powdered products. So that's what that is. It's, as far as we could be aware, it's one of the biggest solar dehydrators in the world, and it's looking forward to when we get that in action next summer. We'll be doing powdered polyculture greens powders.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm gonna send you some plans that we have, and we've done this for a 4 by 4 by 8 dehydrator that is used to dehydrate fish, to get them to where, again, you have fish jerky that you can eat then all through the winter.
All right.
And so we've put a smoking unit in it, so it's not just dehydrated. You can actually flavor it too by getting both the combination of smoked, in the air.
For us, it would be lamb jerky. Yeah, I really want to see those plans.
Yes. Yeah. Sierra.
Yeah, so Zeb, with all of your projects and kind of all of these moving parts that you have going on at your property, how do you stay organized, and how do you stay from getting overwhelmed when you have all of this work to do, and how do you know what to do and when to do it?
Yeah, I guess I do a lot of personal work at the start of the journey. I listen to a lot of podcasts, I guess, impact theory or TED Talks, and you do learn a lot. I listen to some audiobooks, both on the like productivity side of the scale and also sort of like just spiritual well-being, and I find that helps me a lot to keep in order, because there's so many moving parts. We can't do, I'd love to be talking to people now about polyculture paddocks, so I sort of want to get like regional councils on board to start turning some of this wasted grass area that gets mown and no one's really using that mown grass areas. So but focusing on somewhere else. So I guess just acceptance that can't do it all is a way of dealing with the overwhelm. And yeah, I'm working from my passion. I think I connected quite early with my life purpose, and it's this sort of innovation and agriculture, and when you're working from that place, it's doing this work, I feel charges me up more than it depletes. That helps as well.
It's very inspiring. When you wake up in the morning, do you typically have a plan for your day, or do you just go with the flow and kind of let the property tell you what your plan is going to be?
Yeah, with the sheep farm, it's quite structured. Yeah, we like daggings on Tuesday or weighings on Wednesday. It's though there's set dates that are structured out, and then yeah, it's always a mix. But no, I like to go with the flow, and then yeah, have planned things when they need to be planned.
Very cool.
How many of you in the audience are recognizing plants as you saw them there? At least I think I was. I think so. What's in front of the van there on the left? The little building thing that we're just seeing at a distance. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's the beefy green shack. Yeah, it was one of my mates who sort of, yeah, it's a whole another story. But yeah, we served food from there during the festival.
And guys, we have some videos also. We made like 10 different videos, small videos. So I would like to play that too whenever you are ready.
Let's do it, because we're going to run out of time. Zeb, by the way, we are very sensitive to your time. Personally, I'm loving this. I could go for as long as we wanted more. I actually do have another webinar that I do myself a little bit later tonight. But tell us kind of a time frame. Arib, how long will the little videos be?
I think 5 minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 to 8 minutes.
Okay, you okay with that, Zeb? Keep those
Sweet with me. I can talk you through them while they're rolling. I just
and you guys can talk while they're playing, because it doesn't have that much of an audio, so you guys can talk over it if you want.
No, Zeb will talk over him, Arib. So we'll share and I'll just watch.
Okay. Zeb, you will need to unmute yourself if you want to talk. So whenever you want to talk, you can unmute yourself, okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah, polyculture paddock, not just for food production. This area was lawn, and that's the lane that heads down to the yards from the main road. So I picked for these a bunch of just flowering species, and can you see how many different plants are growing there? It's yeah, it was quite remarkable. So yeah, of course we.
Every video, you'll probably have to unmute, Zeb.
All right, there we go. So yeah, this is just showing some of the flowers going. And again, this took me an hour to plant this garden, and it goes for 40, 50 meters, and it's got all that plant, and it took me just like that. Yeah, really cool.
That is very cool. Yeah. And remember, everybody, one of the things we asked, what's different from what his grandfather had, his pop, and it was trees. And look at all those trees that as he said, weren't there before. And unmute if you want to talk here, Zeb.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've been using wool as suppressant anyway. And to the left there, that was if you know about the roof stout method, I just put some old hay down and put potatoes underneath. So that purple passion, yeah, I've got about 8 varieties of potatoes, and yeah, it was just a way of I've got a huge lawn. It took me used to take me 2 hours to mow it. Now it takes me about an hour because I've left some just to go fallow and I'm not mowing it. And some of that I just, yeah, was using the roof stout method to convert that grass to garden, and then obviously doing the polyculture paddock. But yeah, just experimenting on different ways of how do we go from lawn or grass to garden. And yeah, this roof stout one, I was really impressed with how that worked as well.
Okay, next video coming in now.
Yeah, that's just walking through. I sort of laid the hay all down in a square and then raked it to a side with those couple of, so it's just one mower width wide. And yeah, this is just a new garden. Well, I've probably just wait until next spring to plant that. The Cook's garden. And yeah, that's going to be, each of those squares are old railway. They replaced the the power line droppers. So I got the guys from PowerNet to drop those off, and they made some borders for what will be a nursery and a couple of veg plots.
Next video coming now.
Sorry, I'm heading back. Yeah. Yeah, so that one there, the outside one was all about the beneficials and flowering, and then the next one in was I did a lot of mint, oregano, and you could see not much happened there. It basically returns to grass. So I think maybe it was mostly really small seed, and maybe it was getting sown too deep. But yeah, you could see on one side really successful with these flowers, and on the next one back there, yeah, didn't work so well with the herbs. So. Yeah, again, that's just a trial and a failure.
Next video coming now.
So yeah, that's vetch. The leafy ones, chicory, and then down below you can actually see that's where actually the bulk of the feeders is in those Swedes. Those, and there's a couple turnips. So on the high, you see a lot of leaf matter with the vetch and the chicory, but down below those bulbs is where that's how we sort of, it might be 10 kg per hectare of dry matter, which is reasonable. We could probably get a 20 ton, not kg. So we could get a 20 ton crop.
Everybody's got to realize, and I hope your Minister of Agriculture gets this when he comes to the event, guys, that you won't see traditional ag land. And play that video again, review, but not quite yet. Get it queued up, and we're going to play it once more. And look at those root crops. Look at what he's got under you. And most people would never even know that was there if they're looking at it at the surface. And that is so phenomenal. And it is such, again, where this whole ecological business park, polyculture, wow. Just play that one once more, because that's worth looking at. Zeb, next year, this particular area we're looking at, what will you do to prep the land to do what you're going to have on it next year. Again, and I bet you're going to, what I think I know the answer, it's going to be way less than what traditional farmers would do after they came in and just mass harvested this. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
very true. So yeah, this will get grazed out over June and July. There we'll split that whole paddock into blocks, and they'll have sort of 2 days on a block and then get shifted on. And yeah, then what we saw last year with this is that we had a lot of regrowth by doing it that way, as opposed to often we're just left with bare mud after the stock have eaten it in winter, and yeah, that's one of the contentious issues with the freshwater policy, is this bare mud and stock being up to their guts. And but yeah, so doing it this in the 2-day blocks and shifting them on, I'll graze that out. We'll probably get a bit of regrowth, cane that again, and in spring we'll sort of terminate it and then just direct drill our permanent pasture back in.
All right, go ahead to the next one, Reed.
Next one coming in now.
Yeah, instead of just white clover ryegrass, we've got chicory and red clover, and then yeah, we planted about 10 different species with our pasture as well, so including diversity in the permanent mix as well. And I just showed you how high that is. That's a pretty lush pasture. Our fattening lambs in there.
Zeb, I have a quick question for you. You know, Arib and Mark and I were talking yesterday, and we were hoping that we could do just like you and I did last time when he was in his tractor and was able to get out and show me, because we were using a Zoom meeting. GoToWebinar doesn't give us that same capability. So I think Arib had to communicate with you yesterday, probably midday, you know, early your time, but that you needed to get, if possible, get the way we could sort of modify, not make it as easy, but that you would get some of these videos made. So I'm only saying this because these are really, were taken very recently, correct? This is not something that he's been just storing over the last 5 years or whatever.
Yeah. All of these videos were just yesterday afternoon. I did a bit of a farm tour by myself and put these.
Right, just so everybody understands that this would be close to being, if we could be on Zoom instead of GoToWebinar and live, he could be showing this to us just right now today. All right, Reed, go to the next one.
Next one coming in now.
Pine plantation. So yeah, it was planted 30 years ago, and you can see how spaced out it is. It's been agroforestry block, like it's been grazed for the whole time, so it's pretty good bare underneath it as you go in there now. But yeah, it was pretty successful as a agroforestry block. I'd like to plant something. So yeah, obviously my father planted that 30 years ago. I'd like to plant a similar thing, but using trees rather than pine is a bit of a goal for the next couple of years.
Next one coming.
Wait, Arib, hold on just a second. How
Okay.
what's your par 5? What's the distance, either in meters, I guess, for your par 5 holes on your disc golf course?
Okay, so the plantation course, this one, they're all par 3s.
Okay.
18 hole course, and yeah, it's a lot more technical, swerving in and out of trees. There's ones that sort of force you to play forehands and forced sort of hyzer shots. And down at the river, there's a 27 hole course actually, and it has a couple par 5s, and that's 220 meters is the longest one.
Wow, that's some good distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
The longest, I think I've done a couple that would be that long on courses here in the States, but I would say most of the par 5s are probably 180 meters or so. I actually think I watched the national championships of disc golf here in the States on a video on YouTube, and I think they were in the 200 range. So you got some long par fives there. That, by the way, for everybody, that a par five means that's how far you should be able to take 5 throws in disc golf and get it into. Now I don't know whether he's got a formal course where he's actually got real basically chained little devices where you throw the disc into. A lot of us that do it in a little more foresty way use trees, marked trees, and that would be what the hole is, and you have to hit the tree. But a par five means that should be, if you're a decent disc golfer, you should get there in 5 or less. If you're not any good, it might take you 8 or 9 to get there. So anyway, keep going, Reed. Go to the next one.
I had a question. Disc golf.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, what if you throw your disc and it hits a tree? Is there a penalty for that?
No, you hit a lot of trees when you play this plantation course.
You play it from where it lands, Mark.
Yeah, you just play it from where it lands, it just slows you down.
Yeah. You don't want to hit trees if possible. There should be an open lane, which is what you would want to throw it through, Mark. So.
And yeah, we don't have baskets on the farm courses. It's we've got strips of flattened out corrugated iron around the trees in this plantation, and sort of just barrels on posts down at the river course.
Send me pictures of those, because you've homemade those, obviously, and I'd like to see some designs, because I now that you're saying it, I can think of how to use 55-gallon drums and make something. But send me pictures of those sometime.
Yeah, we have a ton of them.
Oh, there's some pictures here that we'll have or not.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Sierra has a bunch of them where she's at too. Sierra, you talked about, we could make a disc course at Vandalia very easily.
Yeah, we could.
It would be very cool. All right, well, keep going, Reeve.
Next one now, coming now.
So this is in the polyculture paddock, this year's one. So this is they're 2 years old. So that's what's happened just by leaving. You can see I've got some black currants I've planted in there because it's permanent. But yeah, so I planted this in November 2019, and you can see how much food's in there. All those tapanero tails, those big small things of pasta, actually. 2 meter high pasta. And I planted one about 2 weeks ago, so those are some brassicas coming up. But we haven't had rain in about 6 weeks, so or decent rain anyway, so it's a bit dry in there. I still want it to be to be sprouted by the summer. Yeah, so all at the start of that video was all just I sowed that once 18 months ago now, and I could go out there and we could probably feed 1,000 people.
Okay, next one coming, only 2 left. So next one is number 12.
Not again. Yeah, anytime we're weighing or shearing or anything, they come in here, we draft. This is just the sheep yards. Whole bunch of wool. It's unfortunately not for a great deal at the moment. There's some sheep out getting ready. They're getting tagged at the moment today. And inside of a standard Kiwi wool shed, wool press, shearing board. So yeah, for shearing, they'll come in here and just come closer and closer, and it's a 4 stand.
before you play the next one, when do you shear?
Throughout the year, our main shear is December, so first month of summer, and it's just, we shear just after we separate the lambs from their mothers. Once basically it's called weaning. After weaning, we shear the week after that, and then but the younger sheep, the hoggets, the replacement sheep, they get shorn 6 monthly to get started, and so yeah, there's about 3 or 4, and then the lambs get shorn at the end of summer. But main shear is the start of summer. So they spend
everybody,
the summer here with
I'm not sure if he mentioned it, but these sheep are meat sheep, so the wool is not the primary product. But there's again the ecological business park mentality. He's making some revenue at least, right, from the wool also. Do you? Right?
Yeah,
correct?
They're a dual purpose breed of sheep, mostly here in New Zealand. So, like, so a merino is mostly for fine wool. Something like strong Texel is Texas is different wool as well. But yeah, it's a dual purpose. So they produce wool as well. Unfortunately, yeah, we're not getting paid much for it at all the last few years. But hopefully it's bouncing back. There's people doing really innovative stuff with wool here. So yeah, hopefully it's going to make a resurgence in the next few years.
Approximately what is the cost per animal to shear in terms of your labor time? Have you ever calculated that?
We get a gang in to do it. The shearing gang comes and does it. So it's roughly $4 or $5 a sheep.
Okay. You know what we pay for alpacas? The most breeders here, most people in the US pay as much as $30. We pay about 15, and that's because we've been using the same shearer, who, by the way, is a New Zealander, and he is now back here in the States because he'll start his shearing down in the South about now, and then he'll shear through probably early August, and then he goes back to New Zealand. But our costs are way higher, which does not make it easy to be profitable for our wool, for our fleece, as we call it, with alpacas.
Yeah, please.
All right, one more, right, Reed?
Yeah, the last one, playing now.
Yeah, so this is this year's polyculture paddock, and obviously you've got those flowers and the cows coming through there, and there's turnips all amongst down below. I'm not a videographer, obviously. So yeah, it's pretty wild in there. All that stalky stuff is all leafy green seed. And that's just showing sort of a bunch of carrots and turnips all going together.
And remember, everybody, Northern Hemisphere folks, this is the equivalent of the early part of fall for us. So, we are now early spring, very, very early, second day of spring. This would be the second day of fall. So the colors of flowers and such were probably, at their peak a month and a half ago, something. So this is moving into the fall.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone overtime here, and I want to be very cautious to be aware of Zeb's time. Sierra, do you have any other questions? I have tons of them, but we'll save those for another time. And Arib and Mark.
Good for me for the day. I could go on and on, but like you said, don't want to take up too much time.
audience, if you've got any more, throw them in right now. And then Zeb, I'd like to take just final thoughts from you, if you would.
Yeah, oh well, it's just been awesome to yeah, share some of what we've been up to. Like I said, a lot of it's just been working away, doing our own thing. We've got the websites, but that, you know, if people aren't checking that, you don't really see it. So now been nice to put this word out, and really nice connecting with you, Wayne. Yeah, talk about Joel being a mentor, just this diversity. But what you're doing is truly inspirational to me as well, because yeah, connecting just like different things on the land, as well as what you're doing with education, and yeah, just the many ventures that I've noticed when flicking through your website. It's very awesome. So thank you for all your work.
Well, I'm going to encourage you to look at one more that we've had it for a while, but it is really now kicking off. So the website's real simple, and I'll send you a link, but it's epncommunity.com. So that stands for Environmental Professionals Network. And you are truly an environmental professional. And one of the things we're going to do, we're doing this for all of our speakers, we're going to be gifting you a equivalent of a $250 membership fee, which you won't have to pay, to be a member as this new organization. And go to EPN Community, several places you can click and you'll find more out about it. But our goal is to really do a good job of connecting professionals in the ecological environmental area, and actually, hopefully, connecting them to projects. And in your case, you don't need more projects. In my case, I don't need more projects. But interestingly, a lot of people have as their valuable asset their time, and it's not very well used in the environmental and ecological space. And so we're hoping that through finding clients privately and also using competitive bid circumstances that every country in the world has, and New Zealand might be a little less than what we have in the States or in Canada, but there's some there. But anyway, the goal is to have this become, we'd hope in 5 years, people would say EPN is the Uber of shared economy, or where the abundance of time is that of ecological and environmental professionals. So we're going to make you a free member, and over time we'll talk with you more about it. But again, that's just one thing we do to thank you for doing this. And then we'd like to plant a seed in your mind that maybe you come on for several more of these events and teach about maybe one topic. I can already think of the one, I think you know, just the polyculture paddock even. I think you could get 3 or 4 good hours of talks, which we'd then turn into like 20-minute segments, 10, 15, that's what people like to watch. And by the way, we'd use Zoom so you could do things live, and not what we're doing on GoToWebinar. And anyway, something to think about. You and I will communicate more about it. So.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome, Wayne. And I like the idea of talking for an hour and compressing it down, sort of save some of the waffling that we might end up doing about disc golf or whatever else.
Right. And I'll tell you, I want to get over there for burning, horse, all the different. I'm going to get over there to see you, and we are going to talk more about the ecological business park concept. I'm going to get some advice from you for what you could do to help me. And you've already asked me for a couple of things, because I'd love to see if we could help on your aquaculture side of things with the natural water features and such that you have. And we've talked a little bit about that already. So, and the summit that's coming up, everybody, that's going to be recorded, I think he said. And if you're in New Zealand, and we do have members in New Zealand, you should figure out how you might be able to get there if you can. So
yeah, well, it's short time frame to get down for this weekend, but no, great talking with you. And then if you keep on tabs with the Future Whenua, who knows, I don't know how long it takes to edit things like and get it up there, but definitely this winter we'll have all these talks live, so the Future Whenua Summit will be.
Zab, there's where we might be able to help you. We do have some editors, and Brian and Mark, we could get Brian involved again on a part-time basis and help us. And so Zeb, let's talk about whether we can help you as you get through into the
All
editing
right.
side of this. So,
Oh,
Sarah, anything
that
more
is
from you?
fantastic.
No more on my end other than just a thank you, and you've been awesome. So many cool projects and so inspirational. I think I actually might try that myself this year. So I've been going back and forth. I live in kind of like a suburban area, and we only have 1 acre, and it's all grassland other than your standard landscaping out front. And I've really been looking for something that I think is the right fit for me, and I think that might be something that I start with. So just awesome inspiration with that. Thank you.
All right. Nice.
All right. Well, Mark, why don't you go ahead and or Reed take us out? And Zeb, again, thanks. And this will just be the start of many more conversations to come.
All right. Nice. Yeah. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.